Welcome everybody to our second of our MSPLand live art of selling webinars. As my wife tries to tell me, she had a BS, which I think is a little bit cruel, but you know, there's a little bit of truth in there, right? So what is the idea of these? These are aimed at sellers, leaders of sellers, dealer principals of our lovely MSPs. And the idea of these is to talk about the art and the science of selling. In our first one, Matt, we spoke about sales leadership, building sales teams, the culture of the likes. Today, we're going to delve a little bit more into the practical. So the hand-to-hand combat in the trenches around the basics of meeting structure, how to build credibility with your customers. So a little bit more useful for that day-to-day kind of sales process.
Yeah, the sort of stuff that you often forget, no matter how many years you've been in the game, and checking back and refining that, and making the ability to go back over and get better and train and hone those skills.
Yeah, really good point, because there's going to be a pile of you guys on here who are grizzled veterans of the industry, and this will be a bit basic, but I think a really good point is it's great to get that refresher. I think even when we were building this deck and we were talking about that, the stuff that I've reinforced into myself. So if you are on this webinar, chances are that you're a sales professional. So congratulations, you've picked an honorable career that is good for yourself, it is good for your customers, and most importantly, it drives revenue into the businesses. So if you're not a salesperson, you're a leader of salespeople, or you're a principal of a business, go and give that salesperson a hug, because they're vital to the success of your business.
Yeah.
Tim, if you're listening, come and give us a hug. So who do we have here? Well, you've got myself, Peter Eldon, Director of Sales and Marketing Access 4. For the ones I don't know, which I'm hoping isn't many of you wonderful people, I am a grizzled veteran of sales. I am 26. It has been a tough gig. That's my first sell. Did anyone buy that? Probably not. Probably losing authenticity and credibility right now.
Well, I was thinking, for my age, I'm looking good at 21.
21, and happy birthday for today as well. It's beautiful. Yes. So my career is long and varied. It has always been within sales. It's always been within sales leadership. I've had my own businesses. I've been in the MSP community for probably longer than most of you guys want to remember. And it's either been leading salespeople, directly selling, supporting our partners in those sales, or even trying to sell the concept of some of the things that we do around BCDR or UC at a biz dev level. So like to think I've got plenty of experience in this, and good and bad, and we'll bestow a couple of bits of that hopefully today for you. And to my right, probably your guys left, I'm confused, Matt Jameson, please tell me a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Pete. And again, to those that may not have met, hello. Been in the Access 4 world for about 18 months now in the role of head of channel. But I've probably spent more time in denial about being in sales than Pete, but had a very colourful career from starting in a sales world of where I was selling wedding receptions to moving into residential real estate. And residential real estate was where I really honed the art and I learnt the skill.
So hang on, you sell them a marriage, then you sell them a house, yes. And then what was there a divorce and then a funeral? Is that kind of your cradle to the grave type of thing?
Well, at one time I was a wedding MC, and I did consider going into being a celebrant for funerals, so I could just do the whole
thing. Yeah, I like it. Like it.
But then somehow I found myself in telecommunications.
Well, where else would you want to be, Matt?
Exactly.
You know, living a dream.
That's exactly.
So what's interesting, I think, where we work quite well is obviously I've got quite a long channel experience within selling, and Matt's got a very successful enterprise focus within his area. That works really well, particularly with our partners, where if you're looking at larger opportunities and you want support from us as the vendor to go in there and support you with those deals, please use Matt. His resources, knowledge, and his experience around his enterprise sales is fantastic, and you'll be better off having him in those deals. Now, before we go on, a little bit of housekeeping. If you've got questions, not only if you've got questions, I want questions as we go through this, please put them into the Q&A section. We will get to them at the end. As you guys are salespeople, we are salespeople. We are coin-operated monkeys. You put $1 in the back, we do a flip. Yes?
Yes.
Yes. The dollar's gone in me. The best 2 questions we get today, deemed by ourselves, there is a $50 Prezi voucher for you to spend on what you will each. So get your questions in there. And then for a couple of honorable mentions, we will give you our fantastic t-shirts. We've got our new UCAS Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles t-shirts, which are hot off the press. We'll give you one of them. We've got an Access Thor, which is upside down. We got those. So we'll get some swag out for some questions. So please, we want this to be interactive. If you agree with us, disagree with us, you've got a question, throw it in, and we'll get to them near the end. With no further ado, let's kick off, yeah?
Yeah, sounds good.
Nice one. So what are we going to do today? We're going to cover 4 talking points, again, about getting to the basics of what a day and a week would look like for salespeople, and give you hopefully some tips that you guys can take away that might make that interaction just a little bit better.
Yes.
So we're going to cover running a successful customer opportunity meeting. We're going to talk about how to structure a sales discovery meeting, particularly in our industry. Like, that's a cracker, right? Understanding what we need to get out of that to then be able to position what we want to put forward and make sure it meets the customer's needs.
Yes.
Yep. We've got how to build trust and credibility. And then we're going to talk a little bit about overcoming objections.
Yes.
All right.
And I think the other thing to remember with all of these is that we're going to be a little bit industry specific around our world, but these rules apply to all selling scenarios.
Yeah, yeah, very much. All right, let's get into it. Number 1, we have running a successful customer opportunity meeting. So, Matt, what are we talking about here? What is this meeting? What do we need to do here? Before we do this, though,
yes,
how have you been?
I'm keeping well.
You doing all right?
I am.
Yeah,
I am.
Stuff on the weekend. Have you been out to your property out country?
Up the country. So I haven't been up for a little while.
But you told me at that last meeting that you've got a property out the country, right?
I have. It's my heart and soul. It's where I live to be, want to be, work to be. So it's everything I do is.
How big is it?
60 acres.
Wow.
Up in the
really?
In the snow.
Amazing.
Off grid. Yeah, I've built my own.
All right. Now we haven't gone off track. We have not gone off track. So running a successful customer opportunity meeting. What did we just do then?
Small talk.
Small talk, right?
Yeah.
So how often do you see, particularly new salespeople, just raw dog into a meeting, right?
Yep.
Just smash in the door. I want to talk to you about your opportunities. And everyone's sitting there going, oh, who's going here? What's going nuts, right? So, we did a bit of a joke there around that, but why small talk and what's the importance of it?
So the importance of small talk is that, and again, bringing it back to basics, people buy off people. Okay?
Yep.
And in a world where selling becomes more and more complicated when you're looking for the unique value proposition and products are becoming more competitive, margins become tighter, it's never been more important that people buy off people.
Yeah.
And so building a rapport and a relationship is critical, because then you become part of that unique selling proposition.
Yeah. And so it's not like you do this as a strategy. You should be doing it because you're interested in the people you're talking to, right?
Absolutely.
And I always talk about, you should talk about the most important thing in the world to them.
It's them.
It is, right? And it's them, it's their family, it's their interest, it's all around that. So, what I'd like to do, and you can still do that on Teams calls, it's a little bit harder and it's blurred out, is look around the office. If you're in there, there'll be indicators left, right, and center as to what their interest is, be it family, be it a race car, a football on a wall or something like that. And don't do it because we're telling you to do it. Do it because you have an interest in these people. You want to know about what their hopes, dreams, and aspirations are.
That's it.
Because that will give you a better idea as to who they are as a person. And you're more likely, if you're invested in them, to do the right thing by them and give them a good solution.
That's it.
So number 1, take a minute, talk about what's going on with them, get a grounding, and prior to us going into the meeting. Absolutely critical, yeah?
Yes, it is.
All right, great. Well, we did our small talk, and I am generally interested in your property out bush. It's a compound, is what it is.
A bunker.
A bunker. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's it.
So, all right. So we've done our small talk. So again, let's look at this meeting. What are the types of meetings this would be?
So this is often the very first meeting. You're meeting this person for
For
the
the first time.
for
So
the
then that's
organisation.
small talk. Yeah, it's super critical.
Absolutely critical.
Yeah,
because you've got no grounding, you've got no background. So you got to
Who's this sales guy coming in to sell me something?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be the sales guy who's just coming in to sell something, right?
Yeah.
And so, as I say, very, very important from that. The meeting, it could be with a new prospect for your managed service agreement. It could be a new prospect for telephony. It could be a company that's introduced you, but ultimately it's the first time you're meeting these guys.
Yep.
Okay. I think then from a structure perspective, and I'm going to say this a bit in this section, is back to basics, right? Make sure you've done the work. Make sure you've done the homework, right? The homework is be on time. Know the address.
Be on time, right? Like, because if you're on time, you're probably late.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's a massive one for me, right? Because it's a respect, and we're going to get to credibility and authenticity later on. And you're going to see this run all the way through here.
That's it.
But get yourself there early. If you're on Teams, be on a minute early, right? And it's interesting about Teams and online. 1 minute late online is about 20 minutes late to an in-person meeting.
Absolutely.
Yeah? So like figure out where you're going to park if you're going on site. Get out on site is the other thing I would say, right? Get these meetings done in person.
Yeah.
Like that's like, I reckon 4 Teams meetings is equivalent of 1 in-person meeting.
Well, I was going to say 4 or 5 times better in person than online.
Right. So you're there early. You've probably shaved and you've stepped a little bit closer to the razor and you're actually dressed okay.
When I say back to basics, I have assumed some of these things were.
It's good. And look, remember, if it's not a Teams meeting, you can't leave your shorts on. You can't do the newsletter either. If you're physically there, make sure you got your pants on. Yeah. Now, this is gold, right? Gold. Where else are you going to be told to remember to put your pants on? It's good stuff.
That's it. That's what MSPLand is all about. Keeping your pants on. So I think, look, a couple of tips there. So we just talked about it being in person, wherever possible, for whatever reason, for whatever excuse you can come up with for it to be an in-person meeting.
Bingo. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And what are your thoughts about, let's go nip out and grab a coffee. Right. I know it's a first one, which maybe not, maybe you want to do in a formal setting, but, I've always found that, neutral ground Highlander, right? If you can get them into a coffee shop down the road or something, I find it frees up the information transfer as well. If it's outside of their formal office, it kind of brings them to a more casual setting with you.
So I agree. I think there's lots of areas that works really well. And I'd also say that it's somewhat industry specific.
Yeah.
If you're going into a very corporate accounting law firm, hey, get them out of there, go and get a coffee, right? Okay. But if you're in a warehousing, production, manufacturing type environment, the counter to the go and get a coffee is, can I have a tour?
Yeah. Gold. Absolute gold. Now, because that's an extension. Oh, stop it. It's like you're going for election. You're trying to be prime minister. But I'm joking aside. There's a lot of reason they run around in high vis, right?
There is.
Because you're associated and you're connected. So that's kind of it's kind of an extension of your small talk, but it's gold in your discovery as well.
Yes.
So that whole, can you explain to me what you guys do? Can you bring me through from when something's bought to going out the door? 2 birds with 1 stone, right? The tour, the verbal tour, you're talking about the most important thing in the world, which is their business and their baby. And you're getting real insight as to what has to happen from a workflow as to where you could be possibly fitting in and really listen to that, right? Rather than just tune out. Because what that will give you later on in that meeting is, okay, well, you mentioned this. Do you have any problems around here or any challenges in this particular area? Might be from your experience in other industries, or again, using that industry knowledge to go, I had a guy who had this particular problem or business at this. Do you guys see this? Or we solve that problem. And
to that point, and I think it's good that we've started on this section, and because some of these things are valid in all the sections that we're going to cover, and that those important questions around what do you do, where do you do, can just flow so much more natural when you're out having a tour.
Absolutely.
So tell me, what's the profile of the people that work in that area?
Really good point, right? Is even with some of our guys, we're talking about doing a white space discovery, right? Where you want to get an understanding of where they're sitting there. And there's two ways you can do that. You can go in with a form, right?
Yep.
Where you sit there and you go, how big is your company? How many staff do you have? What businesses do you ever buy from other than us? Right? Or you can make like a natural conversation around. So what else do you guys do? Do you do anything else in voice?
It.
Because one is you're asking that and they're going, what's this guy's? What's he wants to know all of my personal information from? And the other one of your conversation.
To be honest, in my enterprise sales career, I used to gamify this, right? Which was make it fun.
Yep.
Which is, particularly if you go in as more than one person, so you're going in together as a group to go and pitch or talk or do one of these type of meetings, is you're not allowed to ask. You can't ask a direct question.
Yes.
That's the
rule,
I
love
right?
that.
If you ask a direct question, you'll find dinner.
Yeah, love it.
Right?
Yeah.
And so then you
So okay, let me ask you that then. What do you mean you can't ask a direct question? Give me an example that you want a bit of information on me, but you don't want to ask a direct question.
So, for example, and we'll move on to discovery in a second, but how many phones do you have in a room?
Yes, that's a direct question, right? And why are you asking that? Because I just want that data. I don't care about you. Just give me that data.
That's it.
All right.
That's it.
So how would you phrase that to get the same outcome without being as subtle as a 16-year-old at a dance?
So you start with the profile of the business. So how long have you been in business?
Oh, yeah.
Are you a multi-site? Are you
okay.
that type of
So again, so if we just take a minute and actually show interest rather than, well, I need this information because I want to sell you something. And we're going to see, as you said, later on in that. So it's about caring, being interested, and non what to ask. All right. So let's sum up this one because we've got other stuff to do. So effectively, again, some rocket scientists, guys, put your pants on, be on time, do your small talk, right? If you can, the first formal meeting, maybe not, but the second one, get out, try and get into a neutral ground. Again, ask them about their business. Tell them to talk through about what happens, what do they do, how does that work? Listen, right? Actively listen.
Active listening. And on that point, I know we've got to move on to our next one. It is a trap that salespeople fall into all the time, which is that they're already trying to answer the question that is.
Oh, I know, Matt, I know.
And one, it's highly annoying. and you miss the point because you miss what it is they're telling you.
Really good point. And it's something that I'm terrible at, right? Is that you get excited, right? Because they're starting to tell you something and you're excited. You've got a solution that's going to solve their problem, right? And so you blurt it out, you cut it off, and you do that 3 times around. It's like, would this person just shut up so I can actually say something? And what's also been noted is generally you will misunderstand that.
Yes.
If you cut that off.
That's it.
Really good point. I feel like that was directed at me, Matt, but that's okay. We won't hold any grudges. It's not a safe space. Holding grudges. All right. We're going to move on to our next one.
Indeed.
So, which again, it's going to be the next flow across, right? Which is how to structure sales discovery meetings. So we've had the meeting, we've had the intro, we've seen that there's an opportunity here. We've moved to that next base.
Yep.
And now we're trying to understand what the opportunity is and where we fit in that solution.
That's it. And look, I'll probably start with saying, in all honesty, I can do a discovery session for telephony in about 30 seconds flat, right? If I know what industry you're in, give me your phone bill and how many employees, I can put a solution together, right?
Yeah.
But I don't need to spend the time in the discovery session to do that. But ultimately, this is the game and the art.
Yeah.
Right? And it's the trick here is to go beyond what I'm trying to discover to put a quote together, right? Okay. What you're trying to discover is the other components. So is there a compelling event? Is there a reason? Is there a problem we're trying to solve?
Budget, authority, need, and timeline. We've heard of this.
We have.
Yeah, we might go back to that later on. But because that's what your discovery. There's 2 sides of discovery, right? There's their needs, but there's also your needs.
That's it.
Right? So the needs of what is the problem we're trying to solve is the one, or we end up with just competing on price, right? How do I create or discover a problem to solve?
Yep.
And I think that's important, right? Is there's knowns, there's unknowns, and there's knowns, no knowns, and you know that old quote. It's great. There's the problems that they know they have, right? But there's also a pile of problems that they don't know they have, and that's our job to educate them on that. Might be work from home, it could be malware attacks in the phone systems, it could be all of that.
That's it.
But there's also then the information we need in discovery, which is their budget, their authority, their need, and their timeline.
That's it.
Okay, so how are we doing that? So again, assuming we've turned up on time, we have our pants on, we've done our small talk, right? Now we're in the discovery stage.
Yep. So things that can be industry specific. And going back to the tour of a working environment can be great because suddenly we've got a manufacturing environment. Suddenly we've got widgets being manufactured. Do these employees need telephony? Do they use telephony? How would that benefit? And you can talk around those things to.
Would there be like a top 10 questions you should always ask in discovery, no matter the industry? What do you think? Is there a block of foundation questions? Do you, are you, have you, that you think that would be there? I'm not going to put you on the spot to name them, but maybe we follow that up with that core foundation.
Yeah, there is. There is. And I mean, I've often said, once you know the answer to the 20 questions they're going to ask you, then they're only going to ask you 3 of the 20 of permutations.
Possibles. Right? Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So once you know the answers to the 20, any of the 3 they pull up, away you go. The same way, there is 5 to 10 key elements that we're looking to try and understand. It's just a matter of how you ask those questions and get that information from them.
So this sounds a little one way, but is discovery just us discovering them?
No, absolutely not. It's an opportunity for us to let them know about what we do,
right,
and how we as a person and an organization can add value to.
So, right. But we might have done that in a formal pitch earlier on, right? Or we're going to do that later on. I'm just here. I'm here to get my information, Matt. I've got to pay for the car, right? The kids go to a private school. I need this deal, dude.
Yep.
Gil needs this one.
Yep.
So, but it's right? So every meeting is an opportunity to show your credibility, your credentials, and your ability to do this.
And there's a few things that you can do here. So the more experience you have, the more solutions you've sold, then you can play back off that. So have I sold something else in this industry?
Industry specific, right? Yep. Like it's the whole tell stories, don't tell stats.
That's it.
Right. So if you can show, oh yeah, well, do you know? And my favorite one is, do you know so-and-so? If it's a business, that's gold, right?
Yes.
Because what are you doing is, well, competition's using you. You can relate to that, and then you've got a specific skill in solving in that industry.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay. So we've done a tour. We're getting we know there's a block of questions we might get out. We'll find out some foundation questions. We're making sure that they're discovering us. It sounds wrong, but anyways, they're discovering us. It's just a journey of discovery between both of us. It shouldn't just be one way. It's not just you trying to extract data.
And I think the other important part there is that in any of these things, it's important to ask for something, right?
What do you mean?
So you want to get into a bi-directional relationship with these people in that you are eventually going to, at some point, ask for an order. You're going to ask for a sale. You're going to ask to do business.
Right.
Okay. So the sooner you start asking for something, the sooner you're showing them that part of your intention is that you want to get things from them.
So, right. So you're getting, and does that go, that goes as far as just those positive affirmations, right? So if you're trying to do a sale, and you're doing your trial closes, and you're going, so would that solve your problem?
Yes,
I would. Yeah. So and because of how do you think that would help you guys?
Well, it would do what it is that we need to solve, or it solves that part of the problem we just discussed.
Beautiful. So what happened there? So in that trial close, there's 3 choices. And salespeople, we can sometimes take the easier one, which turns out to be the poorer one.
Yeah.
And what that is a semi-warm kind of nod, half smile when we try and do our trial clause. And you kind of give me that nod, and And salespeople can take that and we grasp on it and Gil needs this one and we're off, right? We're on to the next one. That door's not closed. That's not trial closed, didn't work. So, there's a couple of ways we can manage this. The first one, which is what I did, which is very hard for me to do, I shut up. Very difficult for me to do. You got no idea. So we've asked a question, we want an answer, they've nodded, and then you keep staring. And you wait for that. Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. I see this.
Yep.
Then again, what we can do is we can then take that one, which is okay. They've given me a yes, and I can move on. Or I can really try and close that door and go, oh, yeah. So how are you seeing this working in your particular opportunity? Or does it solve all of your problems, right? So the customer now telling me how my solution can help them in that particular opportunity, that door's well and truly closed.
Yes.
And it gives me the opportunity at the close to go, oh, when we spoke about that and you saw it, and then we work out if it's a real problem or if it's a price problem or whatever it is. So that's that one. But tell me about this asking for something. Can we give an example of how we would ask for something in the discovery?
So often I like to practice with some really simple stuff like, can I have a glass of water? Can I have a cup of tea?
Yes. Don't have that one. Oh, it disappeared on me. Anyway, screen.
And while that sounds a little bit simplistic, it is part of one, getting you to relax about asking the question.
Yep.
Okay. And then getting a response and getting that relationship going from I'm asking for something and you're providing it.
What about what I've found as well, which is around data, information, something they've got to go out and get you.
Correct. And the classic in our world is the telephone bill.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And I really like asking for a telephone bill for lots of reasons. Right. One is generally they don't have it prepped and ready, and which means we need to go to accounts, and therefore we get to meet a finance.
Wow, that's gold. Take that away with you guys.
Okay.
So we've now met some other people who could be roadblocks within that by getting in and popping down and seeing whoever's, the specter of finance.
That's right. And while they're struggling around and opening folders to find the bill that was where it is, or is it online, you've got the opportunity to have a chat, and small talk comes back in.
Yeah.
And what you're then also doing, and again, we're in discovery, and back to my original point, which is we're not just discovering how we build a quote for a build of materials.
No,
we're trying to discover who has the authority? Who am I?
Budget authority, need a timeline, right?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Okay. And so you get to do that. The other thing that I love about getting a phone bill is that if they go, no.
Bingo.
Right.
What does that tell us? What is, so if you're in that point where they won't give you a phone bill, why is that usually the case?
It's usually that they're not invested in you. They don't see the value that you're bringing, and they're not prepared to buy from you.
Bingo. That's so true. And it's a really good litmus test to see where you are with your relationship with your customer. It doesn't have to be a phone bill, like your ticket to do anything. It could be anything that it's their current provider or it's cost information.
Correct.
Because what that's telling you is if you ask for a phone bill and you've done your discovery and you've done all your work up until that point, if they give you that, or they give you that cost of goods information, they're seeing you as a consultant and they're seeing you as someone who's offering a solution to them rather than a salesperson.
Indeed.
Whereas if the first thought is, I'm not going to give this salesperson this bill because it shows them what I'm paying, then you need to go back in and work more on your credibility and your authenticity and really show that you're providing a solution rather than trying to save them some money, which is effectively what they're thinking.
Exactly right. And if I can give a little hint or a tip, if you do get hold of a bill, if it happens to be a Telstra bill, okay, then you can very quickly go to the last page and look for the white pages and you'll find a cost. And you can ask the question, is that a valid cost to your business? Do you truly need to subscribe to the white pages these days?
Well, I'm sorry, Matt, but where else do you find the phone number of various organizations other than a large block of paper sat at your nana's house?
Let me see. Is it
not familiar with
it? So something.
We're not familiar. I mean, we're mailing this out to everyone, and they're not seeing it live.
Well, don't worry.
We'll really interesting, right? So that's again understanding where, and we could do an entire session on how to read phone bills?
Absolutely. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's sum up discovery. Discovery is not one way. It's not you just discovering information on them. It's an opportunity for them to discover more on you.
That's it.
But when you are discovering information on them, there's stuff you need as well. So the stuff you need from a time and materials and what it is you're going to quote, but there's also your budget, authority, and need and timeline that you need to understand when you're presenting this forward, how successful you're going to be, where the roadblocks are. Ask them for something, get them used to giving you stuff. That asking about the phone bill, getting to meet other people who would be in that authoritative chain, that should be part of your discovery is, so who else will be involved in this decision-making process?
Exactly.
Are they there? Can I go and say hello?
Yes.
Brilliant.
Excellent.
And turn up on time, make sure you get your pants on. I can't reiterate that enough, people.
Not enough. Not enough.
All right. So our next one, which again leads really well into this, how to build trust and credibility. And what I'd say is there's some good news and bad news on this. The good news is this is really easy in theory. The bad news is the deployment of it is just long and there's no shortcuts. And what that is, if you want to build trust and credibility, you've got to be trustworthy and credible, right? You have to be authentic.
It is a good starting point.
It is, but you can't phone it in.
No, you can't.
Right? You can't, right? This is where people are salespeople. This is where salespeople get a bad name, right? Is if they're not authentic, if they don't care, they're not invested in these customers, they're not invested in their solutions, and believe genuinely this is the best thing possibly for them. And if you don't believe that, go find a product that you do.
Exactly.
So what are we talking about here? We're talking about a lot of the stuff we've spoken about previous in this, right? So
it is,
respectful of someone's time. So turning up on time with your pants on again.
And
right?
Things like confirming we've got 45 minutes or 60 minutes or an hour and a half, or, and the respect for that time factor.
We keep talking about time, and I know we're two grumpy old men, right? Or at least one grumpy old man in you. But it is, it really is important from a respect standpoint.
Yes.
Is that it's like, I mean, we're both hospo, right? One of my irks is turning up to a restaurant and not being acknowledged when you get there, right? Because what it is telling that you're important, your spend's important, we want to pull that through. So time is critical. If you guys take one thing away from this, and it's just a little prompt to say that 1 minute on Teams kills you. Like it really does, right? It seems like an eternity. Being on time for meetings is super important, and because it is the foundation of trust and respect.
Indeed.
Yeah. What else we got to do? What else do we need to do to build that credibility with our customers?
So I think this is where it's really important to be keen, passionate about what it is you do and how you go about it. And that is that learning about the industry you're in or the industries that they're in and becoming that specialist, the industry expert, the ability to add value beyond the product that you're essentially trying to sell.
100%, man. And that's what we talk to our guys, right? Is whatever you are passionate about outside of work, be it football, sports cars, building bunkers in the bush, whatever it is, you need to bring that passion to the same level into your work life.
Yes.
Right. And fortunately, there's no shortcut around this. If you don't like what you're doing, if you're not passionate about the product you're selling, it's going to be a hard slog for you.
Yeah.
And people see through it.
They do. They absolutely do. And so, things that you can do to help you in this. So ultimately, industry information, industry trends, market trends, things that would, if you're at a C-level or an ownership level conversation that you're building this credibility with, then they're going to be thinking about these things. These are the things that they're running a business. Market trends are critical. Economic factors are critical. If you can talk to these things at a level that they can see, you understand. And again, it has to be real. It has to be genuine. It can't be bullshit.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And I made a little note down here today, which if I was in a sales discovery first meeting in a credibility meeting today, one of the things I've been mentioning is the fact that we just handed down the federal budget.
Yep, absolutely. Well, there's your small talk, right?
Yep.
Right. There's the small talk there in immediate, and it's also trying to find out what the relative is to that level. So 100%.
Yeah.
What do you think of the budget?
Well, I'm going to get 300.
300 bucks back. Yeah. I'm just happy Gina's getting it as well. So that's really good because I'm worried about Gina's.
I was really
Gina's
worried about
yeah.
I mean, that's a
You know,
big electricity.
yeah. We want to make sure she's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're right. Like, and so the the top two things we're looking at when we're hiring salespeople. First one is IQ. So that ability to understand what's going on and transpose that. And then the second one's EQ. So emotional intelligence. So the ability to read who I'm speaking to, where do they fit in this, empathy, right? You can't teach empathy, but it's so important to understand where that person is, how is the budget affecting them? What will it impact their business? What is high interest rates? How does that fit into where they sit? And then framing that around, putting yourself in their position.
Yep.
So industry knowledge, not just how it affects you, how to sell something. You've got to go beyond that surface level. You got to understand the impact. I always say about, good salespeople are active in social media and LinkedIn, not just I was at this event or whatever, but is actually contributing to a conversation. One of my favorite things for is just send something to a partner. Like when you see something, you think of that person, send it to them. I thought of you when I saw this. How do you feel this affects you or the business?
And have an understanding of market trends that affect all businesses. So the challenges of hybrid work, the challenges of cybersecurity, of malware threats, PABX hacking, things that are
across the industry.
It doesn't matter where you are, they keep you up at night.
Yep. And if they're not, then you're talking about that as well. So what are we saying? You got to be, number one for me is the grind, right? You can't just be in and out, right? You've got to be there. You got to be genuine. You got to be authentic. You got to be knowledgeable. Yeah. And then you've got to show that EQ and IQ to have the empathy to see how that relates to themselves.
And I often think about this back to, and as you say, we're both hospo people, we're both out of the hospitality industry. I think back to my hospitality days, and I trained in a silver service fine dining restaurant. The food was spectacular, but it's the show.
Yep.
It's everything that goes around. It's the linen napkins. It's the wipe down of the tables. It's all the little things that fill in the gaps between the meal.
Yeah, when your napkin when you go to the toilet.
That's right. Okay.
Love that. I love that.
That gives you an experience.
Yeah.
And what you pay for when you go to those environments is that experience. And we are replicating that in a business-to-business sales environment by giving these people, by taking them on a journey of learning who we are and the rapport and the credibility building and the discovery sessions, by giving them an experience rather than, hey man, how many phones do you want?
Gil needs this one. Really good point I want to make around the honor in service and the honor in sales, because that's what it is, right? It is taking pride in that experience and taking pride in what you're doing to provide an exceptional service. And that we see that in hospitality. I think, Australians we have a bit of an issue when, we're all equal and we don't want to serve someone, whereas there is honor in service. There is honor in someone spending their money with you and you taking the time to acknowledge that and provide exceptional service. And that very much is in sales as well, there is an honor in understanding someone's problem and then creating a solution that solves that problem and then delivering exceptional service and the manner in which you do that.
That's it.
Yeah, very good. All right. On to our next one, overcoming objections. You know what, Matt, I don't want to do this one.
Well, I'm a bit lost. Oh, I see what was happening here. So what if I could come up with an environment where you'd feel better about doing this segment? Because there's some importance behind it.
I don't think it's relevant, mate. I think we're running out of time. I just don't want to do it.
Again, I feel that there's something else that's blocking this conversation.
Okay, well, you're right. I'm probably not super good on this one. I'm probably feeling a little bit nervous. I'm glad you mentioned that. So I'm probably just a bit uncomfortable about it, to be honest, Matt.
Okay. Well, let's see if I can come up with a way to make you more comfortable with how it is we could handle objections.
Okay. Yeah. I'm willing to give it a go.
Okay.
So you're through the looking glass there, people. All right. Tell you what, and the performance goes too. Okay. So, overcoming objections, right? What do we do now? That was a little snapshot. And I'm sorry, you panicked there for a second. I probably should have let you know I was going to do that ahead of time. That's the actor that I am. So what are we doing here, right? There was clearly a problem there. That wasn't my real issue with this. What have you done? I've just out of nowhere, I've just thrown a bloody hand grenade at the whole thing. talk me through what you did there and then what we got through.
So I think objection handling, I think, often starts with asking a question back. So don't go straight into the
yeah.
It's the asking of the why and the how could and what if.
Is there any, so why do people give us objections, and are all objections, leading question, real?
No, not all objections are real.
But why would someone give me a false objection? So like I said to you, I was out of time, right? But that wasn't really the reason I didn't want to do this.
So often these fake objections are because you haven't done the work previously. So in all the sections that we've just talked about, if you do the job and fulfill the environment and work towards this, then generally you won't get a fake objection.
So, okay. So what we're saying is that when we did our trial close, and a really good example of this is around cost versus benefit, right? So we're setting up the benefit of a UCAS solution for work for home or something like that, right? And we're talking about how, if you're not providing work from home or hybrid work to your staff, you're probably going to struggle to hold on to staff. But if you're not doing it with technology that makes it a good experience, then your consumers are going to be upset as well, right? And so there's value in that. And we work out how much it would be if you lost a customer because it's a poor customer experience and they couldn't get the data because someone's working from home. And when I stopped there from a trial close, I said, can you see how that would benefit and how much you'd lose if you from one customer? And you give me a kind of tepid kind of smile and nod, and I move on. And then we get to the end of this and they go, yeah, but it's very expensive.
Yes.
What's happened there?
You haven't been able to show the value in what it is that you're proposing, or they haven't understood, you didn't explain it well enough, or you've misread the signals.
Yeah. So they're giving me oh, no, I get it. It's just too dear, right? But it's like, well, hang on. If I'd done my work properly and you did generally understand that, the cost of one customer dropping out and, it's $5,000 for, one call in and no one can get in because everyone's working remotely and you can't see this data, that would be a no-brainer, wouldn't it? You'd be like, I'm going to, but your call cost to Fiji is 2 cents higher than what I'm currently paying. It's like, well, do you ring Fiji? No, I don't, but I don't really know how else to compare you. Yes. So I'm doing price.
And I think that's the important part of this is being able to take a breath, have a think about the objection that has been asked, and think through the questions that you're gonna ask to uncover more about what is the truth of the objection.
So the first thing we've got to do is, when we're overcoming objections, we've got to figure out if it's the real objection.
That's it.
Right. And so that's what, and what we're doing now is we're asking, we're going back, right? If we've done our work and we've put those foundations in, you can go back and go, okay, you're saying it's expensive, but remember we were chatting about how, if you lost that one customer and we worked through and did the maths. Yeah. We spoke about that. Well, can you see that if you just lost one a year, or possibly you'd blow out any cost savings of it? Yeah, we're true. So now we're going back to reaffirm, or we're getting to the point where we can call out and go, well, you're not going to say this, but you don't believe me on that piece. So what do? We go back to that section and we relay those foundations, right? Because if the foundations aren't right, you can't keep building.
That's it.
So you go back and do that again.
Yep.
So number one is we've got to find out what the real objection is. And I'm not saying they're going to lie to you. They're going to sometimes, but they're going to genuinely believe, that it is too dear because we haven't built the value yet to the point where it clicks and they go, it's not because of these reasons. So the first thing we do is we find out what the real objection is.
Yes.
Then now we've got the real objection, which I assume we've tried to cover somewhere in the presentation, or it's been a left field because we maybe didn't do our discovery as well as we could have.
Yep.
So what are we going to do? Are we going to sit down just arguing with them that they're wrong, or how are we going to get past an objection now we know it's real?
So I think the how is the how. So how do we get past this objection? So let's work through this, Mr. or Mrs. Customer.
Yep.
Let's work out. I put this solution together on the basis of, let's check the facts. Is this exactly what you need?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Could you do without this part? Well, what if we took this component out? Oh no, I need that. Okay,
yep.
well,
we're re-establishing everything we need.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you may get to the bottom and say, well, okay, so every component you need. and every component adds value, and every component secures your business against this, and every component secures your business against outages. So how is it then if I'm solving this problem, this problem, this problem, and this problem?
So could that be a credibility issue where they're not believing that you can do that? So one of the areas that I like is if I could.
Perfect.
If I could show you, so we're working out, yeah, I like what you're saying, and you got to get there. Look, I like what you're saying here, but I'm just not sure. So what you like, it sounds good. I don't really believe you. So if I could show you how this will save you money on this, help you with this, reduce your risk here, would this be something you'd want to go ahead with?
Yes.
Right. Well, let's go and do that. So now that's where we go into POCs and trials and the likes, exactly. Right? Good. So again, to summarize for our overcoming objections, we got to figure out if it's a real or fake objection.
That's it.
Right. Once we figure that out, what we want to do is drill down to see, is it they haven't understood? Did we maybe not close that door properly? Or is it a left of field? And you can do your best discovery in the world, right? Or you can have it all, and we've all had there, right? This is a deal. It's done. We have got this. This is a no-brainer. We've covered every option, right? 4D chess. And then last minute, new CEO comes in, or this guy's got sick, or whatever it is, and then just the handbrake's put on, right? So sometimes you can't do about it, but now we got to go and drill in to handle that objection in there, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. So before we go up to Q&A, and hopefully you guys are throwing your questions in there, because there's been some quality stuff. Again, remember, pants on. BANT, right? We're going to chat quickly about BANT, because this comes in at every point of our sale. Every deal that I haven't won, every deal Matt hasn't won, every deal you guys have not won at any point has been because of BANT.
Indeed it is.
And BANT is budget, authority,
need,
timeline, right? So what we're saying here is that, do we understand that this buying partner, person, end user has the budget that's required to be able to do this?
That's it.
Absolutely critical. How many times do we see this one? Authority.
Yep.
Is the person we're speaking to able to make the decision on this?
I've sold the solution to reception, but they told me no.
Yep. And why? Because we've done all this overtime creating the need, and then we can't talk to the person who's actually making a decision.
Exactly.
Now, is it just one person who's the authority?
Not always.
Nah. There's lots of people who can say no to you in a deal. There's generally one who can say yes.
That's it.
So we got to find out, and what do we do there? Is there anyone else who's going to be involved in the decision-making process?
And that's part of the discovery of what it is that you want beyond the product.
Yeah. So authority, super important, right? We see this all the time. That leads into need. So when we mean need, what we're really saying there is us creating the value that they need this.
That's it. And sometimes it comes in an easy form. It can be a compelling event. We're moving office.
Yep.
It's a classic.
Yep.
Sometimes it can be an aging.
But that means they need a new telephony system. Doesn't necessarily mean they need ours.
Correct.
So it's not just need as in, oh, no, they need to move. They're on it, right? We've got to create the need in our solution around the unique value propositions that we do, so that need is for us, not just for a phone system.
That's it.
Yeah. And then time frame, right? And again, this gets caught in the channel all the time is, oh, they've got a budget. Yeah, the guy loves me. It's the guy who makes the decision. Oh, they want it. They're going to buy it in 5 years. Doesn't help anyone, right?
No.
So this is really, and I'd encourage you guys to go back. Any deal that slipped for you guys, any deal that you thought you had as a no-brainer, do a little bit of exercise, go back and see if you can figure out where it is. Every single deal that's lost has been because of this, right? And it really, really is a good one to go through. If you're a sales leader, business principal, you're trying to grapple with pipeline, you're trying to get some forward forecasting, absolute gold on every deal that your salespeople are talking to you about is to ask them about budget, authority, need, and timeline.
Excellent.
Beautiful. Now, we are very close to our time. I can't believe we kept that online. We're very good.
We've done well.
We have the lovely Jin who's just sit out of camera range, who is keeping us on level. Come and wave. Come here. Can you give us a wave? Give us a wave. There she is, the floating hand. Welcome, the floating hand. All right. So we got questions.
Credibility.
Yeah. All right. Let's have a look and see what we got here. Oh, we have a lots. Okay, sorry, we've got to read these through. Probably wouldn't have. Okay, so understand enough about the industry that the customers before going into the meeting would be beneficial. Yes. So the question from Chong is, should you do your homework, and is it important to do your homework on the person you're going to see? I would absolutely say yes, but just be careful it doesn't turn into a bit creepy.
Yes.
Like I'm doing a number of interviews at the moment, and I've had it done two ways. One of it was flattering, and they'd done a bit of research and dropped that in, not from a bragging standpoint, but just from a conversation flow, which was really cool. Shout out to Lucy, who works for us now. She's a star. And then I had one just recently, and it's like, no, I know who you are. And like, it was kind of foreboding. So I absolutely do your research, and that's, effectively part of your discovery, right?
It is
understanding that.
And getting onto the, looking at the website, and also being able to pose questions that you fundamentally already know the answers to can often be a good way to get conversations started and build that trust and credibility and build through discovery. I like to use LinkedIn to help you understand their roles.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have to bring in the stalking component. Yeah.
So a couple now said, if we've done so Sharon said, if we've done our homework, we would already know about the business has X amount of staff and multiple locations. We'd understand the business and would have the service provide. What else could we ask? So I agree, Sharon, that you would have done your homework. You probably know that. I would say, though, it is invaluable to get them to tell you that.
Yes. And that comes back to my hospo story, that it's about the experience. It's about taking them on the journey, taking them through that. And so as I say, I've done this so many times. It'd take me about 2.5 minutes to get the information I need to be ready to put a full proposal together for a telephony solution.
Which you go through that dance, and it's not just for that, because you might be surprised what little nuggets you get. So what Sharon's asking, and she agrees with our point, is she said, what else should we ask if you've got that info? So I would, for me, it's about that conversation that you're having. It's not, I believe you've got this, is this right? Kind of yes, no answers. You want them flowing in a conversation.
Some examples of that can be, if you're talking to the owner of the business, what made you get into this industry?
Yep. Yeah.
If you're talking to an employee, how long have you been with the company?
Yeah.
Because if they've been there 4 weeks, it's like, ooh,
okay, who else is involved in this?
That's it. And so things along those lines are great questions to ask. And how long's the company been around? How many employees? What sort of things do you like to do with the employees? How do you do with, how do you handle hybrid working? How do you do cultural events?
That's a really good one as well, right? We'll find out, and again, I think that's a good one when you're doing your homework. Is, are they involved in any charities? Do they do Clean Up Australia or anything like that? That's, see that social conscious and see how that interacts. I think for me, Sharon, around those questions, the best ways I find to do it is asking them to tell you a story about, so how do you guys work? Tell me about when someone buys something from you, what happens in the chain before it goes out the door? How does that work? And then it's that active listening, and then asking questions throughout that gives you the data you need, but it also tells you the story as to what's probably a problem in their business, because people are emotive, and if you've got good EQ, when you'll see the cues, right? You'll see them when, it's meant to go out in 3 days. Okay, it's clearly not going out in 3 days, right?
Sounds to me that it's not going out in 3 days.
And we use the big T for this. Okay, there's clearly issues around that. Or, can we get hold of a bill? Oh, God, yeah, I'd love to get over a bill. Okay, he's got billing issues.
That's it.
So there's some really good stuff there about if we're actively listening, we're asking them to tell a story. But again, the key is anything where the customer is talking to you about their baby, that is positive.
That is gold.
A couple of things here. Matt Biddy saying, love bands. With regards to authority, can you share 2 practical ways or tactics you use to get past gatekeepers when you go into that new business? Really, really good question.
So one of the ways that
So let me set up the question. So what it is in relation to authority on our budget authority need and timeline, Matt's identified that there is someone else who's going to be enrolled in this deal, but the person they're talking to now is giving us the classic, oh no, I can tell them more about it. Oh no, they're going to leave this up to me, or I can sway them for you. What do we do here?
So one of the most practical ways to get around is a demonstration.
Yep.
Okay? So demonstrate the product. That allows you to cast the invitation net wide.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then understanding that, so that their key decision, would it be important for them to understand how the product works or sees it working?
Yeah.
And so demonstration is a really, really cool, easy, quick way to bring them in. And obviously we can help with that with solutions.
Yeah.
And
so sell them a sizzle where they want to be involved to look at that, and then you can actually start building a relationship with that other authority person.
That's it.
For me, another one straight out is call that out. It's just, so who else makes a decision? Or the CEO would be, well, look, to be honest, I don't really want to push forward and really go through all this without having involved. It's very complex. We've got quite a unique value proposition. I really want to make sure we get that across, and you understand that, it's not just a price decision, because, we're not the cheapest in the market, but we add a ton of value, and I want to make sure I get that across to them. And then to Matt's point, he goes, is it okay to walk away from a deal? Absolutely. 100% it is. If that deal's not right for you, for not giving you the information, get out of there, don't ego sell. And I would actually encourage that authority line, is that if they're not letting you into the people who are clearly going to make a decision on your solution, then that's a good way to get them to the table or to walk away.
Yes.
Because you won't get that deal.
It's also having respect for your own value in this proposition and your own time and investment.
100%.
Spending a huge amount of time on a deal that you're talking to the wrong person to is you're disrespecting your own time and effort.
100%. And that is, you've got to know your value, right? And don't kid yourself. Don't be listening in to the back of your head going, you know what, I'll just present to these guys. I'm sure they'll be able to pass it on to them. It won't happen.
That's it.
Or very, very unlikely that you'll get that deal if you're selling at a value proposition. If you're the cheapest in town, sure, cut all this out, just go bomb pricing, but I don't recommend it. I suggest that you sell at your worth and sell at your solutions. And to do that, you need to make sure you're getting the best pitch in front of the right people to make those decisions.
Absolutely.
Amazing. We are out of time. Thank you guys for your questions. We will send out to the lucky winners of our 2 Prezi gift vouchers, as well as our t-shirts. In fact, anyone who was on asked a question, a t-shirts are coming your way, but we'll get out a couple of Prezi vouchers as well. I would like to thank Matt for joining me on this. I love these. Like, I'm coming out of his buzzing. If you get a call from me trying to sell you something in a few minutes, apologies, but I'm fired up right now. I need to know your budget authority you need and your timeline. But I thank you for it. I really enjoy these. It does revive me, and it gets me to know that we're an honorable profession. What we do is important, and we have brilliant partners.
I couldn't agree more. And I thoroughly enjoy doing, and this is the time I'd rather be spending, which is helping our partners achieve their goals. And I would put out to Pete and I here, pick up the phone, give us an email, drop us a line, and let's talk some more about how we can help you cut some deals. Yeah, 100%. So thank you to you guys. Really appreciate you taking your time out. Recording will go out to everyone as well. Please take Matt up on that offer. Getting us to shut up about this stuff is the problem, not getting us started. So if you want to have a conversation offline, you want to do work about your particular teams or any challenges you've had around particular deals, come to us. More than happy to chat. Everyone have a lovely day. Thank you for joining our MSPLand Live. See yous.